like to introduce you to somebody. This is Maxwell. Now, if you've seen my channel before, you know all about Maxwell. He was created by a company called Bottango, and it's basically a kit that introduces people new to the world of animatronics, electronics, and even like programming the electronics and teaching them all the steps necessary to start building their own creations. Now, over the last, I want to say year, I've been playing around a lot with Maxwell, constructing him, animating him, and learning all about the controls of like microcontrollers, different servo motors, and even getting into the APIs of Bottango and controlling these guys remotely. But something interesting has happened. Over the last few weeks, we got communication from Bottango that something else was on the way. And I'm here to say that I got it right here. And this is Captain Cogbrow, the next animatronic from Bottango. And it's the next step to teach you how to build your own animatronics and control it with the software. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through, build him, show off the steps, and let you know how it is. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
So the first order of business with this kit was to, well, open it up and get it out of the box. Upon opening it, I did find quite a few things, couple of envelopes, and of course all the pieces. So I went ahead and opened up this first envelope. And in the envelope, we had some pieces of foam, which were for the hat, I presume. There was some stickers that were in here, some golden stickers for the hat and for the teeth, stickers for the bandana, the eyebrows, the mustache, etc., and white ones if you didn't like the gray pieces or gray stickers. Also in the kit was a revision parts list, which this did come in handy quite a bit later. So I'm going to put these off to the side and make sure that I'll talk about this a little bit later. Also in the kit was some of the wood pieces, actually a lot of wood pieces, and this is MDF, and then also the cut metal pieces. These were pretty sturdy and heavy. And then lastly in the kit was all kind of the bits and bobs, bits and pieces, servo motors, the actual controller, and cabling and all that jazz. After that, you have to download the actual Bottango software, which I did to get the assembly instructions. And once it's downloaded, you click on assembly instructions for Captain Cogbrow. There are multiple different steps for this, but the first one is the introduction, which is the base of the kit. So this is going to be the thing that holds up Captain Cogbrow. And honestly, what I really liked about all of this, the instructions, was that everything is nicely labeled, so you can click on individual pieces and see like where it is and kind of what comprises that one part of the kit. It gives you details about the orientation, so you know exactly what orientation you need to be at when you're looking at the kit, so you don't have the pieces in the wrong order or backwards. And of course, once you dive in, it actually lists out all of the pieces, so you can click on them, get details about it, where to find it. And overall, it was just a really nice user experience. So for this first step, I ended up laying out all of the pieces of the kit, just like it did in the instructions. And it was really easy to put together. It did take me a couple of hours because I actually ended up live streaming this. So I did a lot of chatting and talking about the kit as I was doing the live streaming on Twitch, which if you want to check it out, I'm going to be doing more build videos on Twitch, hopefully in the near future, and probably some gaming too. But I went ahead and did that on the stream. Like I said, it took a little longer than expected, but ultimately this part of the kit shouldn't really take that long. This should only take a few minutes. And when it was done, it looked really good, and I really like this. It was actually really heavy duty and sturdy, but it's time to move on to the second part of the kit. So the second part is that back plate, and this is where we're going to start working with our first servo motor. First thing I had to do was reorient the servo horn. So I went ahead and unscrewed it and moved the position of the servo horn like it said in the instructions. And I also labeled the servo motor, which they all get labeled for later on. Once that was done, I attached the servo to the back plate, and it was really pretty straightforward. It was actually really easy. And this part of the kit is really not that complicated at all. Next part was to get the actual servo or the bearing into the housing. So I got that on there and then attached it to the back plate with the standoffs. And again, pretty easy, nothing crazy, only took a few minutes, and looks really good and is sturdy at the end. So the next part of this kit was actually working on the wheel. Now this is actually more design heavy than structural, if anything. I mean, I guess it is structural, but most of it was just showing off the wheel and doing design stuff. So I got the wood pieces out from their sheets and also got some of the stickers, and I just spent a lot of time applying the stickers to make it look as good as possible. And once it was actually on the pieces of the wheel, it was time to attach it. Now, what's really nice about this is that each of those pieces is actually labeled. So you can kind of figure out exactly what order it needs to go in and just go kind of down the line. I did have some trouble getting the screws in just because I would sometimes put them in the wrong place, but ultimately it wasn't really that hard. I just needed to pay attention, and that probably wouldn't have been an issue. All right, time for the fourth step, which is the rotation assembly. And just like the other parts, this really wasn't that complicated. We're working with another servo motor, and then actually this is going to be mostly actually all metal pieces. So I went ahead and attached that. There was some 3D printed parts with this as well, so I attached those, prepped the second servo motor, and got that pretty much into place with the actual metal pieces, just like it said in the instructions. Put that on, put the back plate on, and got it pretty much aligned up. It wasn't that complicated, and just wanted to show it off here to show you what it kind of looks like. Now, the next portion is the up and down assembly. So this is going to incorporate some metal pieces and some of that MDF. And overall, this actually wasn't even that complicated either. So I placed all the pieces out just like in the instructions. And then, this also used some countersunk bolts and nut things. So I had to basically get that sunk into the 3D printed parts. Once that was done, I attached the servo motor to the 3D printed parts and also the wood pieces as well. Tighten them up. And overall, this, again, wasn't super complicated. Slid it into the actual assembly that's going to be doing all the up and down motion, and then use some of the 3D printed pieces to actually get it locked into place. There it goes. So it's really not that complicated, really easy to set up, and everything was working and moving the way that it should, and overall looks pretty good. So I was not disappointed with this part of the kit at all. Now we're on to step 6, and actually the next several steps are going to be working on the actual head of Captain Cogbrow. And this is where we start actually amping up in complexity a little bit. We have some metal pieces that look a lot different than what we've been working with so far. And then also some MDF pieces that also look a little bit alien. But overall, this was not really complicated by any means. It was actually fairly straightforward. But got those pieces attached. We also had some more countersunk bolts and nuts. Got those put into place and everything screwed in. Also had to use a couple of stickers for this, just like in the previous steps, to get the nuts in there. And then also we started working on some teeth and got some of the stickers for that. Overall, just went ahead and it was pretty easy. Got everything screwed into place. It was a little bit alien looking and kind of had to do some reorientation during this part just because it was different looking at it and had to kind of do a couple of takes. Put the servo motor into place. Didn't entirely screw it into place because it gets tightened later on in a later step. I don't know if that was actually listed in the instructions. I can't really remember. But just make sure you don't over tighten it because you'll have to loosen it anyways, and it's hard to get to. Now on to step 7, we're going to continue working on the head. And this is where we're going to start building out more of the structure of the head. And there's going to be a lot of MDF pieces. So as you can see, lots of pieces, lots of stickers, and a lot of countersunk bolts and screws. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick jump cut so you don't have to watch this, because this took roughly like 45 minutes to an hour to get all this done. And now look, it's done. Hey, power of editing. This is wonderful. And finger guns just to show off, how excited I was to get this completed. So I went ahead and tried to put some of these pieces together, and I realized, wait, this doesn't exactly fit. And then I realized, wait, these are the revision pieces that I need to actually put in. So I went ahead and grabbed those revision pieces, and I went ahead and slotted them through, and they fit perfectly. So be sure to make sure that if you have this kit and you have the revision pieces, that you do not throw them away. They are very, very useful, especially for this step. But I went ahead and locked in all the top parts of the head and got those put together and essentially just screwed it in. It wasn't really that complicated. I think what I struggled with the most on this step was just making sure that everything was kind of lined up, because it's a little bit loose when you put it together, and you want to make sure that nothing is really out of place, because you don't want to damage the MDF parts, or you want everything kind of lined up the way that it needs to be for the kit so it looks nice. Then put those 3D printed pieces with the countersunk bolts and nuts and whatever it is into the right places and screwed them into place. Now, You have to do this pretty much several times. I'm only showing it off once because it's really not necessary to show off every piece, but as you can see, it looks really, really good and is in place and is done. Okay, now time for step 8, and we're going to continue working on the head and the front of the face with the eyebrow motors. So let's go ahead and start jumping into that. This involved 2 different servo motors, 5 and 6. So I prepped those and then also worked with some more of those countersunk bolts and pieces. I will talk about what I'm doing here towards the end of the video so that you kind of know what is happening here, but got that all set up and had to fix this piece just a little bit due to some damage. But overall, didn't really cause too many issues down the line. And like I said, I will talk about this later in the video, so don't worry too much about it right now. Went ahead and put in the right servo motor for the right eyebrow, or I guess his left eyebrow. And once those servo motors were put into place, I actually had to slot the wires through the back of the head. It was really hard to see, so I wanted to show off and record what it looked like and where it was going through. And once that is actually slid all the way through, you can then attach the front of the face to the rest of the head. It wasn't that complicated. I'm being a little too nice and a little too gentle on that part. It's actually pretty easy to slot through. But once you screw it all together, it's pretty much done. Next is step 9. And so for step 9, we're actually putting all of the kind of more decorative pieces, the eyebrows on, the mustache on, and the front of the face on and the nose. So I brought all those pieces out just like the instructions, and I started putting together part of the nose, part of the front plate to hold the front teeth in, readjusted the servo motor so I could actually slide that front plate on, and attached it and started putting the front of the nose on and screwing everything into place. Oh, and then also had to put on the front of the forehead. That's when I started screwing everything into place. So overall, this, again, not very complicated at all. Just took a little bit of finagling to get everything into place. And then I also had to tighten the screws for the eyebrows pretty tight to make sure it didn't interfere with the eyebrows too much. But overall, looks good. Next is step 10. For step 10, it's to work on the jaw. This was actually a little bit complicated for me just because of some of the tight squeeze of the jaw. But I went ahead, got all the parts out, and started putting it together and started building out on the head, the part where the jaw would actually get connected to, and started building out the teeth. But again, I struggled a little bit with this just because the tightness of some of the screws with around the jaw. It was really hard to kind of get my fingers in there and tighten things on certain areas. Wasn't crazy complicated. I just kind of dropped a couple of screws, nuts, all that other stuff, and it got a little frustrating at some point, but overall it wasn't that bad. Got the servo motor with the linkage, tightened into the jaw, and basically had it done after that. So as you can see, it looks pretty good here. Now it's time to move on to step 11. And this is where we're going to start putting everything together and getting Captain Cogbrow looking really, really sharp. So I laid out all the pieces. In this case, it was a lot of connecting pieces, not too much hardware. Also let's get the hat out. Got the stickers on the hat as kind of a primer step before we started putting everything together. The stickers didn't really want to stick to the foam super well, so make sure you put them on there and, give them time to actually get on, secure onto the foam. Lock the jaw into place with the 3D printed part after that, and also put in the pin so that would hold that part of the jaw into place. Again, struggling, trying to put screws in because my hands were too big, but you mirror it on the other side. And that's just me playing with the jaw because it's looking really good and it's cool to see it actually start working. I tightened the linkage onto the rest of the head. Now, I do want to say that I struggled with this linkage a lot. You might have to kind of finagle it to get it into the right place. And even after you have the animatronic running, it doesn't always want to sit right. So make sure that you tighten it and play around with it. And I promise at some point you'll be able to figure out just the right amount of pressure. Then after that, I went ahead and put the up and down back plate, whatever that thing is called, onto the back of the head and tightened it into place. It took a little bit of finagling, just like the rest of it, because, it's starting to get into the smaller pieces and it's hard to put on. I ran some of the cables through. And with the cables run through, the last thing I had to do is actually get the guide for the motor into place. This is going to make sure that everything doesn't kind of jiggle around, that it has a nice up and down motion. So I tightened that rail, put it into place, and that's me playing with it right there to show how cool it works. Once that was done, it was time to actually construct the hat. So I put all of the foam pieces together, just like the instructions said. I messed this up a few times, which is surprising because out of all the pieces of the kit, I think I struggled with the hat the most, which I think shows how easy the kit is and how bad I am at putting foam pieces together. But once it was done, I put the hat onto Captain Cogbrow, and I marveled at my work because it's looking really, really good. After that, it was time to put the collar on the back to make sure that the assembly didn't slide out of place. So I put that on and I tightened it, and that made sure that everything stayed in place. And as you can see, he is looking really, really good at this point. I'm very, very excited. And overall, this was just, it was so fun to look at. I felt so satisfied looking at the build once I had all those in place. All right, step 12, working on the circuits. So for this, it was pretty much just getting the back plate on and getting the actual controller board into place. And overall, this was only actually a few steps. So I got everything together, the metal back plate, the acrylic back plate, and the board. Put the metal back plate onto the back of Captain Cogbrow and essentially screwed that into place. It took a couple of tries because it kept wanting to pop out, but overall it wasn't crazy difficult. I put the control board onto the acrylic piece, and then I went ahead and attached to the back of Captain Cogbrow, which overall, again, super easy. After that, it was time to wire it. Now, I do want to say when I got this kit, the wiring instructions were kind of different than what they are now, so make sure you follow the guide because they are no longer the same as what I have here. Once that was done, I went ahead and attached it to the actual stand, got it into place, and that looks really good, but I'm not going to show you just yet. And now time for the final step. We open this wonderful box. So I went ahead and I got this out of the box. It says open last, open it up. And to my surprise, there is a wonderful pin that is in there from Bottango, congratulating you on building the kit. I felt super satisfied by this, and it felt really good getting this pin. But now it's time to hook up Captain Cogbrow to the actual software. So you open up a new project in Bottango for Captain Cogbrow, and as you can see, there's all the different steps of actually teaching you how to use the software. Overall, I have a couple tutorials on how to use the software on my channel, so check that out. But we have to just essentially connect the board, update it, and get the controller going. And then we're ready to go.
All right, the build is done. Let's go check it out.
Oh, a pirate's life was a wondrous thing. Heave-ho, heave-ho. With gold to seek and a song to sing. Heave-ho, heave-ho. The sea she calls and the winds they roar, but they're lost to me forevermore. Ahoy, avast, ye scallywag! Give me a ship in the old black flag, sailing through a starless night. Me mates called left, but I spun right. That blasted reef, quick as a wink, dragged us down into the drink. Ahoy, avast, ye scallywag! Give me a ship and the old black flag. Now in the deep is where I dwell. Heave-ho, heave-ho. I tell no tales, but I know them well. Heave-ho, heave-ho. And what a bounty I would pay to feel the waves and salty spray. Ahoy, avast, ye scallywag! Give me a ship in the old black flag.
So overall, I really enjoyed this build. This was actually a lot of fun to make. If you would like to jump into it and maybe try your own kit, you can actually find him on Bottango. Here is the web address. And this kit is currently going for this price right here. So now a couple of things. I know you might be looking at it and saying, well, that's maybe a little expensive for a beginner kit. Overall, I think this is actually a really affordable kit, especially for what you get out of it. Obviously, this is an all-in-one kit. You pretty much don't have to do any of the design work yourself, and it comes working pretty much out of the box, which is incredible. If you were to try to do this by yourself without any help, this would cost infinitely more money to do it than what you have to invest in this kit to just learn how to do an animatronic. And I really enjoyed that about this kit. There's one complaint that I have about this kit. It's the use of 3D printed parts. So I did have an issue with some of the 3D printed parts where they actually delaminated. And it wasn't a huge issue. Essentially, I just had to reheat those parts. So I just ended up using a lighter and resealed those parts if they happened to crack a little bit. It wasn't terrible. It did kind of malform the part a little bit, but nothing that was super drastic or ruined the kit in any way. But I do also want to say, I totally understand why 3D printed parts were used in this, because the reality is that if you were to use completely fabricated parts, or if you were to do the laser cut parts that you saw in some of the build, it would cost infinitely more money. And so that the 3D printing is a way to keep it more affordable. And honestly, it really wasn't that bad. That's just me kind of being nitpicky. If I could have a perfect world, I would not do the 3D printed parts, or maybe make them a little bit stronger, but honestly, not a huge deal at all. But if you like what you see, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.